Hello, welcome to this week's astrology transits, and um, I'm going to leave the aspects up just a little bit, just because there's a few interesting things. But if you notice, as the planets get a little closer together, we're not having so many aspects between them. I mean, we still have Mars over here, but and then the nodes, you just kind of pretend they're not there. And then the moon is the trigger, the timing, so that will be making aspects more than anything else, of course, but if you see kind of all the way around, um, it's there, things are kind of out of a lot of talk between each other. So things on one level are settling down. We're getting a little bit of a lineup here in Pisces. We could see that next week, the Sun and Mercury will move out of Aquarius and will join the pack over here. And then if we just pretend Chiron isn't there, and we just have Venus and Aries, so we can see the lineup kind of getting tighter, although we have a few planets, still out over here, but it's interesting. So one thing what we have coming into this week, like tomorrow, I just wrote up, I want to make sure I told you, tomorrow's our full moon, and we'll see it in a second. We can see the moon this week is in Leo, and as it gets closer to the sun, tomorrow also the sun will be conjunct um, Mercury, and then we'll have the full moon as well. So it's very interesting. We'll get there in a second. But today we have a little bit of a little squawk in between the sun and Uranus or something, in fixed signs. Um, Maybe a little need for some instant security, maybe something, we got it like a mix, the sun is like a, bohemian and Aquarian and kind of want to be different. And the sun, it has that edgy energy, which wants to be like Uranus, that Aquarian energy, but then Uranus is like stuck in Taurus, it's like, I'm grounded. No, I can't go outside and light firecrackers, in the neighbors to scare the neighbor's cat. That's kind of like the energy. It's like, oh man, so it's kind of like a little frustrating energy of a sort that is there with the sun and Uranus, but it's lively, it's quirky. You may have to get a little creative with channeling that fixedness that is kind of our main thing today. The sun is getting closer to, it's basically conjunct um, Mercury right now. It's going to go right into the heart of the sun. And when it gets within, what is it, 17 minutes, not degrees, 17 minutes, I think that's when they call it Kazemi. So it's right there. So whenever two planets are conjunct, they blend together. So the Mercury and the sun always do this. That they have this dance. Mercury never gets far away from the sun. And Venus is, not too much farther, but Mercury won't even get a full 30 degrees away. It only gets like 28-ish degrees away. So it can really only make a conjunction and um a semi square, 45, 22 degrees, yeah. So it doesn't have a lot of that, and then Venus, not a whole lot of aspects either. So Venus is getting ready, you can see how far it is away. It's getting ready to go retrograde. It's going to go on the 1st of March. So we are about 2 weeks away from Venus going retrograde, and it will be slowing down. Mars will go direct about a week. So they'll be switching directions. Oh, hello, goodbye, goodbye, hello. uh, Kind of that energy. But yeah, we got a little bit of reprieve with energies. But what we got into tomorrow, which is, I think, just a very interesting day. And I love looking at some of these patterns that are made. By the transits. This is kind of looking at it from an interesting point of view. Now, I have to point out that the nodes are going to be opposite, but then we have the south node over here opposing, Neptune. It's 28, 29 degrees. So it's picking up on not only just the nodal opposition, which they always are, but it is, the south node is opposing Neptune. Neptune is conjunct the north node. So we have that, and then the moon, which is interesting. The moon, when it clicks into the opposition, to the opposition to the sun or the full moon, right at that time, boop, um, it it makes that, we have this little trigger here, this double opposition, with the South Node and Neptune, and then the sun and the moon. So this is kind of interesting. And then the moon also, while it's here, it also picks up on the quincunx over to Neptune. And then we have the sun picking up that quincunx over to the South Node. So they're all sharing um, positions. We have the sun making the opposition to the moon and then the quincunx to the south node. We have the moon making the opposition to the sun and the quincunx to Neptune, right? And then we have the others, the sun and the moon and Neptune and there again. Okay, so just had to iron that in a little bit. So there's this little bit of interesting disharmony. um, let's just kind of unpack this a little bit. We already said, the sun and Mercury are getting, closer. It's like Mercury is going quick. So as it slows down, it won't be quite yet, but as it will pass, it's passing the sun and it's going to go into Aries. But until then, it's going to go a little bit faster. So it's going further away and it's going to make it's going to contact over here with Neptune, I mean with Saturn and Neptune coming up. But just keep that in the back of your head. But with these two together, the Mercury going past the sun, it speeds up things. It speeds up your thoughts, and plus being in the sign of Aquarius. So I think maybe there'll be a more heightened, hopefully intuition, knowingness, maybe. Even though there's a lot of turmoil with things right now, a lot of people are stirring things up because they're duped. They don't understand. They're running on lies and information coming out, from mainstream media. But what we're getting closer to is super intelligence. The DeepSeek AI model that was just rolled out by China, people are already using that all over the world. Mike Adams is going to release one on hopefully before Venus goes retrograde on March 1st. I'm hoping. He has a model that's not programmed by a lot of the crappy things. See, the thing about AI is what is inputted into it. So if you go to the Brighteon.com, Brighteon, he's releasing this free. It's called Enoch. Just go there and check it out. It'll be really, really cool. So it's cool to have a holistic AI, and some of the things that you can do with it are phenomenal. So this, I think, is the reason I mentioned that is it's going to help humanity get closer to super intelligence. If you have access to all kinds of information, I mean, we already do, but a lot of it is duped, is controlled by, the megalith uh, corporations that run things. But right now we are in a big flux since we've had this change of guard, the change of regime, and people are with this Aquarian, there's like this holier than thou attitude, and people on both sides are going to think they're right until they're shown that they're wrong, until the more the truth is revealed. And that's just kind of what we're plugging along with. But we got some, crazy stuff with this Neptunian energy still. Until this changes into Aries and cleans up this energy, I think we're going to have a lot of foggy stuff, a lot of drippy things that are going to be hard to uh, interpret because they're deliberately being um, mushed, smashed, bleach bitted, destroyed. So you destroy your tracks, evidence, but there's always forensic evidence. So anyway, there's this mushiness, with this Neptunian stuff, and then as we have the Sun and Mercury about to move into it, I think we're gonna murky it all up. We're gonna murk it up. We're gonna muddy the waters. Gonna make things that way. And I think right here at this full moon, we're starting to see what we can't blend, what we can't, what we don't really want to face. So that's the whole thing with, when you have inconjuncts, the quincunxes and oppositions. So information that not wanting to swallow, information don't want to look at, don't want to face, um, not wanting to eat crow, not wanting to go back on and say I'm wrong, not wanting to admit things, is all of this, and then the moon there in proud Leo, opposing this holier than thou sun and Mercury, here's where we have some drama, moon and Leo. So here we have some standoff, some drama, some being up on a soapbox kind of thing. So that being said, before I move on into this week, I wanted to just point out what I want to do, a little bit more, and I have been, but I want to iron this out. Each week, I think it's important to kind of get the moon energy of the week, and it'll move through 3 or 4 signs. And I think that really helps to understand, to slow things down, because there's a lot of people doing like months and stuff on the internet and longer and the year, which is great. It's good to get an overall picture, but with our runnings of everyday life, one thing just moves into the next, and we forget from moment to moment because things are moving so fast. So if we slow it down a little bit and can pay attention to the moon a little bit, that is our mood, our feelings, how we put things into our own family sphere, whether it's yourself or an extended family or your friends or however it is. It's like you have your own sphere of quote unquote family, your space, your comfortable place and space. So when it's in Leo, it's a period where we get great, bigger, more activity, more creativity. We're on stage, we get more exuberant, we're more expressive. The general tendencies for the public to appreciate colorful, dramatic ways of life. We're creative, we have creative inspiration, we get more either romantic or pleasurable pursuits. Might be energized by this particular this transit of where it's at in your chart, of course. People will want to seek the limelight a little bit more, be a little bit more, pay attention a little bit more, maybe more to your personal, your personal appearance, maybe being a little bit more assertive, maybe thirst for pleasure, and things that make you, puff you up a little bit. Maybe another thing, sometimes people, if you have a strong Leo in your chart, we could be a little bit bossy, or get a little bit more extroverted or external, in things. Maybe if you can and you need to demonstrate your personal authority or dominance, you can. Just watch that we don't carry that to excess and have ego, confrontations. That's sort of the one thing with Leo there. Then we have the moon in Virgo. And whenever it's in Virgo, I always find myself organizing and cleaning. I just find myself doing it when I kind of forget what the sign is. And I'm like, there, I'm organizing that kitchen drawer. It's like, finally, there's always crap around the house that needs to be organized and cleaned, no matter what. But it's always a good time for that. Getting your daily diet, moon, your daily things, your daily habits, Virgo in order, your health, your supplements, your pills, your exercise, anything kind of, relating to health and diet. We have those 2.5 days to kind of make that happen. Maybe more business as usual attitude, from that high of the Leo, we get more matter of fact and more business-like, more practical. Sometimes we get more focused on detail, where Leo was maybe just more outward, and we don't think about anything at all except what's going on in the moment. With Virgo, we settle down and we get organized, we get lists, we get details, we get a little bit more efficient. We might do better with our hygiene or practical things. I'm finally going to do this or whatever. We might make improvements in efficiency. It's like, gosh, I can do this. I can wash the fork and the spoon in my cup in a minute. I never knew. It's like, I'm going to just focus on it. How long does it take to do those 3 things, right? We figure things like that out. More methodical with stuff. We can maybe, we become maybe a little bit more neater, or we have the ability to, at least put it that way. More practical, maybe, looking for more value. Then it moves through Libra, we get all nitpicky and all that, and then we get a little bit more social now. We can, it's like, okay, enough of this cleaning up around the house. I want to go out, and then we get maybe more public, more others, more, a little more gracious, maybe a little bit more polite, with handling things, maybe there's a little bit more legal matters you're tending with, or personal close relationships, more emphasis over in that part, more appreciation of social interactions, more artistic, creativity, because it is, Venus ruled, um, musical, you could be more, into like listening to music or appreciating arts. And then at the end of this week, it moves into Scorpio. That is, it's not the most favorite place of the moon. It's when that's when the moon is in its fall, doesn't like to be there because it's under the spotlight, but it's still very industrious. It's very constructive. It's very, it improves our efforts for improvement, for regenerating, it's very regenerative. So it kind of dovetails with maybe some of the health habits we put in. We might feel very regenerative, do things to regenerate ourselves, reinvent ourselves, feel good about deep things. Maybe making our home, because we're still dealing with moon, their domestic environment, or maybe our business environment, um, making that, a little bit better, investigating that, looking deeper at it, putting on that analysis. Um, what else? Maybe because it is a fixed sign, tying together loose ends on things, not liking things unfinished, hopefully focusing on that instead of dredging up any emotional resentments from any past dealings or financial things. Sometimes that scorpionic moon can get, emotionally, confrontational. This depends on other things that are going on in your chart. If you have, any ill aspects there, it could stir up some of that. But if it's all pretty chill, it's like a nice investigative moon. So that's the moon this week, that we have to look at. So tomorrow again, full moon, we've got this, interesting, trying to make opposites and things that don't get along, because here we have the moon in Leo, and then we've got, it's in a quincunx over to Neptune. Maybe it doesn't want to believe stuff, and it's going to go and be temper tantrum. And then the sun and Mercury, here's information, on south node. I don't want to accept that, I want to go back to the known. I don't want it to look at, so there's some interesting stuff here. All right, moving on. Thursday, interesting opposition. And I mean, we're still going on with that. And we still have these that are in place, but interesting square with the moon. Moon is kind of be our main thing this week. Um, this could curtail a lot of extra stuff. This could be tying up loose ends, with this Jupiter, it's really crazy there in Gemini. We get to be too sometimes distracted, I think. And then the moon in Virgo is going to maybe rein a lot of that in, definitely. Pretty much a quiet day on Thursday, which is nice. This energies are still dissipating here in the middle. Just little conversations there. I'm just going to leave that on because it's just interesting to see some of these others. Coming into Friday, Valentine's Day, um, it doesn't look like a real warm and fuzzy Valentine's day to me. I mean, all in all, it's just kind of gnarly. The best thing would maybe be something out of the blue. When you got the moon, see the moon's in Virgo, it's just real nitpicky and health oriented. It's not like, hey, let's skip the diet and have chocolate and a filet mignon. It's like, oh no, that wouldn't be good. Oh, it's like with the moon in Virgo there, it just doesn't seem real. You might take a rain check and maybe at least when it's in Scorpio, you can have some more interesting things going on. But it just seems kind of like, I don't know, more mental than anything to me on this one. Um, the sun making a square and a half over to Mars, I mean, that can be kind of tense, you know. see, there's no real good aspects between, Mars and Venus. We got Mars in a weak sign, and and then we have Venus, in Aries. It's not its favorite place. It's like the man, and then and then energy, and then the man is like the woman is softer. We have it's just maybe it's a blending of these kind of energies more, but it's sort of aggressive. Venus in Aries is a little bit more aggressive, and then Mars and Cancer is less aggressive and more passive. So, and then Mars is, kind of in an odd place with the sun. It doesn't really want to be provoked here. But it's still tense. Um, yeah, the moon, over to Uranus, maybe it's again, let's like let's have a healthy dinner together. And maybe make it a pretty napkin setting and all the service and candles and or I don't know, I'm just being funny, but it's like more, things in order rather than throwing it out. So anyway, this just does not seem like a real harmonious day for any of you who are into that. Just beware if your gift or your dinner or your thought or your this is ill received, it may not be you. Okay. Saturday. um, yeah, the Virgo moon is just kind of like a nervous moon. It's not to me like a real lovey moon, So if you come on more like the intellectual or manners, attention to detail, that might win you over. That might be it. But anyway, Saturday, moon clears there. It goes over to South Node, which is also weird too, because it's also, moon going over South Node, later in the day as it passes that, depending on where you're at, can just be kind of crappy. This is early Saturday morning. So if you're East Coast, you'll experience it more. Um, it could be a lot of memories of the past. Somebody could have come up from your past, especially with the romance stuff the day before. There could be exes and old lovers and old thoughts of stuff for a lot of people that could be looming, because the moon is so close to the South Node, dredging up stuff from the past. So just a little warning about that. And then again, the sun not in a good conversation with Mars. And then Venus is really not in the picture with anything here. It's just kind of by itself. So, um, yeah. Anything else on Saturday, Karen? No. Well, we got the friendly now after all that, then the moon kind of gets into that friendly social stuff. So maybe if you postponed the any activities to the next day, it'd probably be way better. Um, okay. The moon, when it first moves over here, we get the trine going over to Pluto, which is kind of cool. This is what I'm saying. It's like, if we wait till the next day, it's like the aspects get way better, because it's past the South Node. Now it's going to be in like a nice transformative phase, a nice power phase, using the power of conversation of skill. That may be, a better thing. Um, But it does oppose Venus later, as it goes on. You can see here Venus at 7. So Moon, there's a little feisty, but that's not bad because at least they're in the same, polarity. They're both, masculine signs. All right, moving on into Sunday. Biggest thing, is more moon energy. The moon will trine over to Jupiter, which feels good. Then it'll square over to Mars. See that there? And then it will inconjunct or quincunx over to Saturn. So Moon is going to be making just kind of more Moon stuff. But so what is that like? It's like, well, being over to Jupiter, we might, get some big ideas on something or get distracted, and then squaring over to Mars. Um, being in cardinal signs there, it may give us energy. It may give you energy to follow through because a lot of times squares are very energizing. Even though they may be slight challenging, it might be like, well, I'll show them, which if you didn't have them to show, you wouldn't have gotten it done, kind of energy. And then quincunx over to Saturn, and then it's like, well, what do you think about that? uh, and then with the quincunx, it's not there's not much going on there. There's not much in common. So do it for yourself, not anyone else, if you do anything. If you have anything, any love, business, um, buying something, you know, anything, like that, where you're involved with the public. All right, moving on into Monday, the moon moves into, later in the day, it'll move into Scorpio. But you look at the energies now. We kind of had a quiet week, and now, something may drop over the weekend, and then we're picking up more stuff here on Monday, more intense aspects. We still got the square and a half, Mars with the sun. Um, moon is go back over, to Neptune. Here's some more weird stuff that could be coming at us. Um, then moon over to the sun. Yay, nice. It's got some nice conversation. We still have this stuff going on. What's down here? Jupiter over to the North Node. That's kind of nice. Expansion of things, where we're going to. If we go and we understand with compassion and really try to understand where we disagree maybe with people, and maybe try to find how something was like that for you. And instead of trying to change somebody's mind, it's like if you share, like, I remember when I was disillusioned, or I remember when I was feeling like that. I remember, a time in my life, of course, I'm Aries, kind of going through this right now, but with much more tact and diplomacy, trying to relate to somebody will win out. Definitely, as the moon is here into Libra, where you can see the other side. Doesn't mean you agree, but you can see where somebody's coming from and where they're effed up. Where they're it's like, okay, I can see how you're duped. Now, sometimes you just have to let it go and meditate and pray to how you can bring information or truth through. And or always, if you're off or error, that you would see it. Sometimes it's like, we get so self-righteous on something that we fail, to see the error in our ways. So if you're open to, when you meditate, you're clearing out all the stuff in your mind, you're getting rid of that monkey mind, and then you're letting in things come in. So sometimes you have to give your monkey mind something to do, either, you know, the box breathing where you're counting, like, as you breathe in, I count to four and breathe in, so then you hold it for the count of four, and then you exhale for the count of four, and then you hold the exhale for the count of four. So the counting is just kind of giving your mind something to do. It's going to trip off, and you're going to be like, all of a sudden you'll be thinking about soup, and then you'll remember, like, what was I doing? Oh, I was counting, and oh yeah, or whatever. But it's just a way of disciplining. You're giving your mind a little bit of a discipline so that you distract it long enough so that what you're seeking, the truths can come in between all of those barrage of thoughts that's just constant. And yeah, so I would say this might be a good week of that, because there's not not a lot at all of other planetary aspects. So it's kind of quiet. It's more of a moody or mental, of a mood, a week. So I think it'd be really good to try to reach more silent moments. And if you don't have the time or inclination to, like, lie down and meditate, you can just sit in your chair. You can sit on the toilet, while you're peeing, and do like 30 seconds of meditation, and doing like four breathings, four box breaths. It doesn't have to be long. We keep trying to put things off because we think it has to be a certain way, but it doesn't. It just consistency, or you kind of show the universe that you're willing to do something so that you can get something back. You can get truths, you can get through to somebody, to something. All right, so that's kind of the week, using it for maybe more inner growth again, because we don't get a lot of breaks. And then, we're going to get, last week was pretty noisy, especially that really crazy, lineup I showed you. And then, we're going to have a lot of planets starting to change directions, very soon, change signs and then change directions. And again, by early summer, late spring, early summer, things are going to be way different. So use this little exhale now, to definitely do that, to just kind of get your inner ducks in a row, as we move on. Okay, full moon tomorrow. Then we'll have Mars going direct. We can see here it's retrograde. It's coming up. When is it? Let's just look real quick. Uh, there's like the 23rd. And then was it the 18th, 19th, 18th? Yeah, the 18th next week. The sun moves into Pisces. Mercury will have moved into Pisces on Friday, the 14th. I failed to say that too. So that one moves into changes signs. So we have that. So we'll have 1, 2, 3, 4 at the North Node, and then in a few days there by the 18th, the sun will be into that Pisces pack. All right, so enjoy the little bit of quiet. Have a nice Valentine's Day. Just really, I don't, I like it just because, it reminds me of coming from the heart, no matter what, just sort of coming from the heart, understanding other points of view, and just, sharing just love, just compassion, and joy. All right, more to follow. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.